Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see such a large crowd of people of all colours, all races. Now, we're all here because of an incident that happened in America with George Floyd's death. But I want to make it clear that we're not just here to stand in solidarity with the black people in America, but we're here to address a problem of racism that's present here in this country. A little bit about myself. My grandfather built a banana plantation in Uganda. He never went to school, but he believed in education. And my father was educated entirely in Uganda. My father worked extremely hard and sacrificed everything for my education. And he was determined to get me into the best schools in England. And in the end, I went to a prep school in Ascot, where I was the first black person ever to go to that school. It had been going for 100 years. I then went on to a school called Eton. I was the 5th black person ever to go to Eton. While I was there as 3 black people or pupils out of 1,300. One of the other 3 was my brother. From there, I went on to Oxford, and from there, I now practice at the bar in London. I have been a member there of a prestigious set of chambers. I was there for 18 years. There were 60 barristers, only one of whom was black. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I have grown up rubbing shoulders with white privilege. But I'm very, very aware of the racism that there is in this country. One of my great heroes was William Wilberforce, a great white guy who fought all his life to get rid of the slave trade. The act getting rid of the slave trade was passed in 1807. I wonder what William Wilberforce would be thinking that it was necessary to hold this protest in 2020. How far have we actually traveled? Now, America has its own issues, as I've referred to, with race, but let's look at this country. You only have to look back to the death and murder of Stephen Lawrence to see the kind of issues that are here. That was in 1993, 27 years ago. The people who are responsible were not brought to justice. But since then, it took 19 years to bring 2 out of the 5 suspects to justice. So there's been partial justice for Stephen Lawrence. There was an inquiry, a judicial inquiry into the investigation, into how the police had investigated the murder. That judicial inquiry reported in 1999 that the failings of the police were due to institutional racism and failure of leadership at the top. That was in 1999. Now, wind the clock forward to 2018 or 2020. We've had the Windrush scandal. And ironically, the government policy group that formulated policy on getting immigration down was called the Hostile Environment Working Group. That was what David Cameron's coalition government set up. And it came up with the idea that people who had been invited to come to this country, to help this country out and to settle here, should be sent back to the West Indies when they were perfectly entitled to stay here. Absolutely outrageous. So you think, how on earth could a group at the heart of government come up with that idea? they've now had to admit that they have illegally deported people who were perfectly entitled to be here. They're now having to deal with 1,275 claims for compensation. But ladies and gentlemen, people here have shared with you their experiences of racism in their own lifetimes. Now, there are a number of people I know who are in denial about racism in the UK. They think it's a thing of the past. They think it's no longer here. Do not let them kid themselves. The problems are very deep-seated. It's easy to spot racism when someone calls somebody the N-word or a racist or derogatory name. All of us can spot that, can't we? It's easy on the football terraces to denounce someone who has shouted racial abuse. That's easy. And that is actually quite easy to deal with. What is more difficult is when racism goes deeper. It goes into the system, into the structures on which this country is built, and to the very processes. Take the law. Why is it that I was the only black person out of 60 barristers in a set of chambers in London? This is how it works. They will tell you that they select people on merit. What do they mean by that? What they mean is this. They say to themselves, I am a very clever barrister, very intelligent. I know what a talented person looks like. It looks like me. So they then go and select people who are like them, who went to the same school as they did, the same university as they did, and who generally are the same color as they are. And hey presto, they keep selecting more white people, more people with exactly the same background as themselves. And then they're terribly surprised when you tell them, well, why is there only one black person in this place? Because the system just simply keeps repeating itself. And that's what we need to attack. That's what we need the guys in authority in government to understand. We need to break down those structural racism processes that run this country and go to the heart of things. Again, there's been an article this year, in April, in the Lawyer magazine, which is the in-house legal magazine. It looked at the commercial bar, those barristers who practice in the commercial field. Now, they looked at the 6 most prestigious chambers in London who do commercial law. There are 562 barristers in that field. Guess how many are black? 4. 4 out of 562. This is in 2020, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let anyone kid you that there isn't racism in this country. So that is what we need to grapple with. And we need to understand that these structures permeate throughout the whole of the society in this country. You'll see, if you go to the streets of London, you'll see people of all colours, all races in the streets. It looks as if this country is an open country, free country. But as soon as you get to a certain level, suddenly it all becomes white. You will not see many black people in boards of directors of FTSE 100 companies. You will not see a lot of black judges. You will not see many black members of parliament. This needs to change. And how can white judges, all of them generally white, sit in judgment on the rest of society and on black people? Those people don't know how white privilege works. Well, if you've got the advantage of white privilege, which a lot of people just take for granted, what it means is that you're free to do any job you like, go into any field you like, and you won't face the barriers that black people face. You'll be able to go as high as your talent takes you. The trouble for the black people and community is that they're more likely to be stopped and searched by the police. They're more likely to be charged for possession of drugs rather than just warned or cautioned. They're more likely we just heard, to get into the psychiatric hospitals. They are less likely to get good jobs. They're more likely to be kept in the low-skilled, lowest-paid jobs. All of these are barriers that they face. And there's a great quote from the book To Kill a Mockingbird. You will never really get to know a person until you consider things from their point of view, until you climb into their skin and walk around in it. I appreciate that a lot of white people can't do that in themselves. But if you did that, you will see how things look from a black person's point of view and the barriers that they face each day. They have to battle against all those barriers. And it doesn't matter how hard they work, some of those things are just beyond them if they haven't gone to the right school or if they haven't gone to the right university. And let's face it, guys, when I think of you white guys, what color are you really? Sometimes you're pink when you're embarrassed. Sometimes you're red when you're angry. Sometimes you're blue or purple when you're bruised. You even get black eyes. But when you really want to look good, you go out in the sun and you want to get brown. So black guys, do not ever be ashamed of your color. And, you know, this country's values have been shaped by Christian values. Wilberforce, who I mentioned at the beginning, he was a strong Christian. Now, in the Bible, all of us were made in the image of God. All of us. No matter what our color, no matter what our race, or our gender, or our sexuality, or our religion, it doesn't matter. We're all made in the image of God. And there's a great verse in Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek, slave nor free, male nor female, for all are one in the Lord Jesus Christ. And what that verse beautifully captures is it doesn't matter whether you're a Jew or a Greek or a Brit or an American or an African, you are all equal in God's eyes. It doesn't matter what your status is, whether society thinks of you as a slave or a high person or whatever your background, you are all of equal value in God's eyes. And it doesn't matter what your gender is. You are all equal. And we want to build a society where everybody can enjoy exactly the same opportunities without any hindrances or obstacles. We want to build a society where everyone is valued for who they are, not what their color of their skin is, not what gender they are, not what their sexuality is, not what their religion is. That is what we need to fight for, ladies and gentlemen. So, no justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Black lives
Matter.
They what? They what?
Matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.